Real quick, where is Jordan? Yeah. The fastest shooter. Pretty cool. Pretty cool that, come here.
My name's Nick.
It's pretty cool. I like doing this, but when you get like police officers, veterans, super soldiers, what do you do for work?
Design, graphic design.
You're a geek. You're a hipster geek that drinks coffee that tastes like beer that tastes like coffee and
Mostly.
I drove all the way out to the suburbs to get these farm fresh eggs.
I do not go to the suburbs, no.
It's true. So literally though, you vested all of these men with a rifle that you never shot until 5 minutes beforehand. It was a Radian weapon, which I think had something to do with that.
Yeah, we did also.
So Colonel donated this blade that, need a little blood on it.
Fullbird?
Yeah, it's bloody now.
Fullbird.
That is a Fullbird, and they had these custom colors made. So you vested everybody, although we had to have a valiant effort. I don't think any of them ever stood a chance up against you.
Well, no, I don't know about that. Thank you.
Nice work, dude. Good job. Beast.
Hey, let's hear it.
I need to practice with this thing. I don't know.
Rubber ducky's right in front of you.
Yeah.
Even bigger.
Y'all almost beat me.
All right, get off the deck. Let's go. Okay. You guys have fun that last bit with the rifles?
Yeah.
What was some takeaways? Let's hear them one at a time.
Oh, I definitely like Mike Vedder.
No, I want to hear legitimate takeaways, not this bullshit trying to be funny, trying to take this, trying to salve the pain of a miss that cost you a blade.
There it comes.
Come on, give me some legit shit.
Go, new guy.
I mean, realize that don't shoot rifle much. I know I talked to Jeff about it a little bit. Like, just like your support hand and your primary and support hand. I don't want to say strong hand and weak hand. Like a lot of times, if you're trying to be more accurate and you're focusing on that, and you're not just gripping 100%, you'll change what grips harder, you know, which hand. And I think with rifle, it's more prevalent. You have to really let this support hand work. If you're working back here with this hand, it'll throw you off real bad, especially if you got like a stock trigger, not a sweet trigger on a rifle. You got mil-spec trigger. You gotta lock it in with this hand. Let that hand work. Do a lot of work with that hand.
The work you malfunctions with your support hand.
Right.
The one about transitioning the pistol, instead of bringing the rifle down face up,
Good one.
you know, just turning it so that you can, it's a more natural progression back to the pistol is really,
I think that was
it was massive.
Of setting the rifle down in this position while we're drawing our firearm to this position. So I'm laying the rifle magazine out and I'm simply laying it over my body doing two things at the same time.
I actually used to think that was bullshit.
Come over it.
I used to think that was bullshit, like, I'm gonna take my hand and get where I need it to be. And I heard a guy that was like your size on our county SWAT team tell a story about his gun. It wasn't even a transition thing. It got pinned like that and his arm was stuck and it pinned his own rifle down. And so like he was the guy that said like, hey, maybe that's not a stupid thing. So it's legit. Not that I didn't believe you, but some of those things that are like little tiny nuances could be the thing that saves your life.
But yapping beforehand, it's kind of like throwing you in the deep water like Mick did in the beginning. Mike started throwing you in the deep water, putting you through a drill where you had to manipulate the weapon a little bit. I think some of you probably realize, like, my grip here is not good, or my sling being attached at this point is not good, or Mick wishes he had a big dick. Something like that.
Hey, one other thing on what Mike put out, that manipulating your safety as part of your trigger. I mean,
Yeah, that was good.
I'm going to tell you right now, bar none, I mean, guys may never get in a gunfight, may never have to transition. It's all great knowledge, but that safety is huge. That finger back up off the trigger stuff every single time. That's huge.
And despite what people say, even Special Forces or whoever, doing CQB clear in your house, we don't flip it on fire and just leave it there.
Yeah.
We don't do that. I put it on fire and safe every time.
Yeah.
Unless I'm going, I know I'm about to shoot this guy and I'm moving to that guy. I don't need to, but if I'm about to go in a room, I'm not on fire, ready to go.
What else, fellas? Come on, man. Don't be if you guys are afraid to talk amongst.
I wasn't even shooting ARs, but just learning from previous trainers that I've met with in the past, like just learning stuff dry firing, the sandwiching your finger when doing attack reload. I think that's a good takeaway because, like you said, if you're doing it, no matter if you're grabbing it underhand or overhand, like beer can grip, you're going to have more of a purchase on the magazine. It's not going to slide around, so you'll get 9 times out of 10 a better seated magazine, just a better way to do things.
Something about time, taking your time with the shots. It seemed almost It seems almost the same in terms of speed, but when you actually think about it and you know that everything on the line with that shot, it's just a totally different mentality.
That's like a personal thing, like what can I get away with and still get the hit, which you can't really figure out till you do it enough, you know?
Yeah.
I think depending on your retransitioning back to get your primary back into the fight, it also depends on what kind of sling you guys have too, because I've seen multiple guys do it different ways. Like single point, a lot easier doing that what you did with the mag outside than it is for the double point sling. Like
You can change the
length,
change the length and position.
yeah, that's what we're talking about. That's what I'm saying. That's what we say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like for me, like mine is bigger. Like if I use my shorty, like my 11.5, it's so much easier for me to do that because it's already out here compared to a 16.5 or 18-inch barrel rifle that has everything out here because everything's so tight whenever you're moving it around. Oh yeah, or you're just a big pussy.
So consider that what I really tried to convey to you guys is we have the trained response, which is the accumulation of all of our training, the totality of our training, right? Well, whatever we've done, whatever we're level we're at, that's our trained response. Then we have our performance based on that trained response. Then we have the cognitive process. 20% of our brain is cognitive process. 40%, 50% of it is subconscious action, and the rest is unconscious. Well, we hear people confuse unconscious with subconscious. Unconscious action, because there's a drill that talks about conscious and unconscious, it ain't unconscious. That's wrong. Because if you look at psychology, unconscious is our behavior. That's who we are behaviorally. We don't have a lot of control over who we are. The nasty porn that we look, the donkey porn or whatever the that's part of our behavioral component we have to fix, right? Okay, so the majority of everything, the majority of what we do is subconscious. So what we want to take is things from the conscious bucket and move them to the subconscious bucket. So when I'm dealing with a problem, I can open up that 20% under stress dealing with this complex issue. So people underestimate the thinking component, the psychological impact, and the instinctual propensities that we have to fight as the totality of the combat equation, which is something that Colonel Blades touched on quite eloquently. Just different words than I would use, but same concept. So part of the drills that I hope that you guys take back with you and run are things that are part of subconscious action and conscious action, because your conscious action can sometimes disrupt your subconscious performance, right? Because your mind's so focused on remembering what to do that it diminishes your performance. Well, that's what it's going to look like when you're fighting, because your performance is diminished based on your cognitive process. I know it sounds complicated and like stupid shit. You don't want to hear that. We just want to shoot, shoot, shoot. But in self-defense, it becomes the imperative. Make sense?
So the subconscious is an automated skill.
Yes.
Automated that you don't have to think of.
Have you guys noticed the deep correlation or similarities in all of this stuff? Like what you just said, what Al said was the same thing that he said that I said. Get rid of the fat, figure out the thing that works, and then train that thing till it's done automatically. Tomorrow, before we let loose, we'll spend a little bit of time talking about some of the moral and ethical, legal kind of things. Not a lot, but some, just so we can have that to think about, because if we don't, like my question to Al seriously is that guy that his own personal safety has got to the point where like, well, and I love the guy, but like, that bitch, you can change your own tire. I'm not taking like the 1 in 20 million risk that like somebody's, that, you know, it's a ruse. That's how criminals do things, you know? What's that? Yeah, but what if that's not him? Like, let me propose this. Why do we do all of this?
Prepare yourself for worst case.
Sorry?
Prepare yourself for worst.
But for real though, what's the worst case scenario? You die. But what's the worst thing? You die. And then what? So you're not here to enjoy and live and be with your kids and your wife. That's the worst thing. So what? You're gonna die anyway. So do we spend all this energy to train to prolong our life to be an asshole? That's the weird thing to me. Like that, I mean, that's kind of like what my brain has gotten to. Like, or to be this tactical Timmy where you're so scared of everything. You've got pounds of food hidden in tree branches and you know what I mean? Like, in case this happens, I'm gonna go do this. Whatever, dude, there's big trees places. You got my point.
Well, Vicky, I mean, what you're saying is what we leave behind is the impressions that we leave on others.
Right.
That's our legacy, is the impressions we leave on everyone around us. So
otherwise, all we're doing
meaningless?
is let's go get paintball.
Yeah.
And just like shoot each other with paintball.
That's what I kind of touched on that whole conversation going. That's why I kind of added in, like, the reality is, like, I'm going to stop and help somebody change the tire.
Yeah. Me too.
Right. Me too.
But I'll stab somebody in the face too.
Right.
What kind of men do you want to be?
But it's being situationally aware. It's just
But
like
you could do both. You
man.
could stab the lady and then change her tire.
Hey, why did that cop shoot that guy, 10 times? The guy didn't even have a gun, but it was at night and the guy was, well, because it's training too. It's situational awareness and training constantly to be prepared for those and make decisions to switch. I'll put it on. Have Jack come out.
Point being, what kind of men do you want to be? If it's just to be like dudes that are like, I got guns, well, then you're a douchebag, and it's a waste of life. If that's what you want to do, then just keep it to yourself, because I don't want to hear about it.
How many people carry a gun for self-defense here? How many people apply self-defense? Who's just competition, just wants to sling lead? So,
I'm not either.
what percentage of the combat equation have we practiced all today? Which part? Kind of the most critical part. Can we hit the target with the tool?
In competition, there's a lot of crossover.
There is, but we're talking about self-defense as a complete practice. So competition reveals efficiency with the tool that we're using to hurt this person that's trying to hurt us. So that's the extent of the relationship. So nothing was discussed about pre-engagement. Nothing was discussed about post-engagement. Pre-engagement and post-engagement could perhaps be the most important factors that we are not training today or tomorrow.
We're going to talk about that stuff.
I think
That's
we
the
should.
difference between jail time and...
It's so much, life or death, jail time or not jail time, missing a target, not assessing a target, not
getting your skull cracked by the guy you didn't see.
Yeah. The times you use force, the times you don't use force. I always tell you, I tell my students, 2 things. You win every fight you don't get into. When you have a gun, you have a greater responsibility to stay out of the fight because it's creating more liability for you. And if you start a fight and you shoot somebody, you're You look at the elements in your state, you're pretty cops less so, but we're still held accountable. And the last thing, and I said this the other night to a few of you, I don't want you guys to be this much better than the people you're fighting. I'm not interested in survival. I'm interested in only one thing, and it's winning. I want you to be this much better. You pick a firefight with you guys, it's the worst day you're gonna ever have. You pick the wrong person to get in a firefight with. So that's the mentality I like people to take into their, their shooting, but also their pre-engagement, how they look, their composure when they're engaging a target. Are we doing target practice? All morning we did target practice. It's hard not to.
Yes and no,
but it's important. It's essential to do target practice because that isolates the mechanics that are necessary to effectively use whatever tool we decide to use, in this case a gun. But what about the totality of after this event? What do we do after we do this? What are the other threats? Who's coming to help us? What are our after action? The people that have been in firefights know that becomes, now you're in a state of disarray, a state of stress. You've got to de-escalate your mind and your body, right? And now you have, are you in hyper mode where everything is a threat around you? Are you in frozen mode where I'm hyper focused on this target? How do we train for that?
Which is another reason why we train with replicable systems that, like, safety's on, fingers off the trigger, I load this way, I cycle this way, because you don't get better. That doesn't work that way.
So part of my training priority is to include the totality of the event and get people focused on the pre and post engagement and not stuck in the static 180 bullshit that we're all stuck in most ranges. And to realize that it is about the position you put yourself in. It's about the communication that you're able. If you're not going to talk to this stupid dummy, you think you're going to talk to someone in the real world when you have to engage them? So the totality of our actions here is it is a rehearsal for a future performance, right? The more you rehearse, the better you perform. So it's just I just want you guys to take away from that and consider that in your training. It's important.
I'll tell you, you know the video of, I mean, there's a bunch of them out there, but I think it was Vegas. That video went viral. They shoot up that guy that takes a couple pot shots and runs, and then the officer takes his cat tourniquet off his ankle and applies it to the guy's leg. You know that video?
Yeah, that's a good video.
That's
You guys hear this?
Years ago, several years back, there's no way that an officer was going to be applying a tourniquet like that, unless maybe he was, you know, prior military and had done it overseas or something. And nowadays, that's what you're seeing. And nowadays, if they don't do it, the guy's still alive. Now it all of a sudden becomes another liability.
Yeah.
What do you do? Walk up and put 2 more rounds in him? No, don't get a video of that. You know? So, like what you're saying, tomorrow when we go over some of this medical stuff, it's going to be some post-incident stuff. It's going to be what you might have to do next. You know, starting to clean up the mess, which nobody likes to do, but that's kind of part of it. If you do shoot somebody, you know, or you fired 4 rounds and 2 went into the bad guy and the other 2 hit the lady putting your groceries cars, you better, yeah, you own them. That sucks, but you still better go try to save somebody's life.
And you guys realize you are not criminally liable for negligence protecting yourself. You're civilly liable. If you and I engage and I shoot you as part of me defending myself, I'm not held criminally liable for protecting myself. There's no criminal, just every state, you have a right to defend yourself. You're not negligent criminally because I had no intent to hurt them. I was defending myself, but I am ruined civilly for the rest of my life. I'll be paying the family millions of dollars.
Not to mention you probably become a drunk and smoke yourself in some motel room because you're a jackleg and shot some innocent people.
Part of these guys can do that anyway. But no, but the other thing on that, Mike, too, is like, also when you draw your gun and you start talking about the legal ramifications of an attorney, you're not criminally liable, right? If they prove that you weren't greater than this far away, why didn't you walk away? You're at a gas station pumping gas and it's all on video and they're like, your car door.
We're going to talk about tomorrow the prudent man.
There's duty to retreat. Stand your ground laws, Castle Doctrine, where does it apply? All you guys got to figure out what those elements, those gives you the legal authority to use lethal force with less lethal circumstances. Who can you shoot that comes into your house? Does Castle Doctrine translate into your car, vehicle? Translate to your places you work? Do you guys know what duty to retreat is? I think there's probably people here in a state that has duty to retreat. Do you know what duty to retreat means? It means if he's challenging me and I can run there, I can't shoot him, I have to run. Because if I shoot him, I am liable. I have the ability to retreat based on the totality of the circumstance. At this distance, there's really no...
Especially when you're dealing with the likes of me.
Yeah.
That's a joke.
So you know, where is all the education on all this stuff that... There's so much emphasis on just the shooting shit. There's so much more that could... And, you know, hopefully no one gets in a firefight, but you'll find out when you do. It's a shitstorm.
Guys, get in a semicircle. Semicircle.
Close on?
Close on. I'm going to walk around real quick. Semicircle so that you all can face. Doesn't need to be this tight. You loop out. I'm going to walk past you.